Time to tinker. Time to tinker in the shed. Right, so this is the start of the conversion of the GSXR 1000 into a big Frank or a Streetfighter or whatever it ends up. Whatever you want to label it. So first things first, get the new yoke put on and see if that does actually fit in with the fairing. What I've done to start with is just gone round and undone all the screen bolts, so that can come off. I don't think it says in the instructions to take it off, but I just think it'd be better out the way, give me a little bit more room up the top here. And as I'm taking off, I found yet another thing that's broken, the screen itself. It was cracked from this bolt here up, which I hadn't noticed, and then there's a section of it that was missing around the bolt hole here, so the screen's pretty knackered anyway. So first thing is to, I don't know really, drop the clip-ons off or bleed the brakes or just take the top yoke off. Just don't know. If I remove the yoke, I might end up with the ignition in the way. Anyway, let's remove the yoke. Right, so I want a big spanner for the top. 32mm, and the breaker bar, I think. Right, so the cables are very tightly clamped around the ignition barrel by the looks of it, so I'm just taking off the lower bracket. So it's not, well, I'm not taking it off, I'm just releasing the wires from it and leaving it in place. Give me a little bit more, not a lot. In fact, not much at all. Now this ignition itself, it looks like star drive, but with a hole in the middle. So they might end up cut off. Yeah, might be lucky with this. There we go, one old top yoke off. Oh, blimey. That's really going to look silly. Oh well. Right, so that's the old yoke off. So now I need to get the brake fluid drained and take the reservoir off and the brake lines off, ready for the new ones to go on, and then strip all the controls and everything off the clip-ons, ready to go on the new handlebars. So I'll drain off this reservoir first. Phillips screwdriver. And at this stage I'm not really worried about. Yeah, I'm not too worried about getting air in the system, because obviously I'm taking the brake lines right off. I'm replacing them, so the whole thing's got to be bled and well, refilled and bled. There's that empty. I won't put the top one just yet. I'm going to release the lines off the calipers and then drain them out, or bag the ends and take them off and then let it drain out somewhere else. But first of all, I'm going to pump it up a bit on the ABBA stand. So yeah, just pump this up a bit more, get it to a more usable height. Right, so that's right up there. Right, so I've decided to take the caliper off. I've got a little bit out of the bleed screw, but not much. So I've decided to take the caliper off, mainly to get it away from the disc and the tyre and everything. Having done that, one of the brake pads is a bit low, so I think that all wants a good scrub out and new pads on that anyway. So having said that, I'm not overly worried about brake fluid on the pads. Having said that, I'd rather it wasn't going everywhere, because it's a bloody messy substance. Right, so let's cover that up. Right, so I've wrapped that in a couple of gloves. And I've got a jug ready. So I'll put the banjo bolt back in for the time being. Tape a glove on the end of the, just in case while my back's turned it decides it's going to leak. And then undo the other side. So again, having looked at the other side, I think I'll take this off. Again, just to keep it away from the disc and the tyre. And while it's off, I'll give it a good clean up. Yeah, they're not too terrible, but I think I'll give it some sintered pads. All that trying to avoid tyres and get a big blob of it on there. Right, so that's the brake lines disconnected, and obviously the caliper's off. Again, put the banjo bolt back in if it wants to go. Right, so yes, that's the other caliper off. Oh, a few droplets on the floor. Now just stuff this over here with the other one. Bit of rag under it in case it wants to keep dripping. Right, so now I need to get the lines off of their respective brackets. Right, I'll also put the bits and pieces back on the tub, just so I know where they are. Right, so that's them three from down here. I think I'll let the bike down a bit, so that'll do. Now, that's three. They should pull. I'll just put that down there for safekeeping. Right, so that's the brake lever off. Get the bar ends off. Oh, that'll explain it. It's the rubbers. It's the fat rubbers. One down, one to go. Right, so that's two bar ends out. We've got to take the unscrew and take off the throttle tube. Right, there's one clip on, clipped off. Clip on number two off. Right, not as convenient, but all the instructions are in German or Austrian. You can have German or Austrian, but what they're referring to is throttle cables. Throttle cable goes number one, yeah, throttle goes in front of the triple tree. The electrics go in front of the forks. This side the electrics go around the centre post, but inside the other fork. What's two? Two is Klutzenstein and Fartenharden, which apparently wants to go inside the fork as well. Probably need to undo the bracket down here to give that some movement. Let's try that. Could work. I'm very skeptical. The bracket's not going to do any harm, so I'll put that back in for the time being. So that's all lined up properly. So I need to. Where's the ignition going? Doesn't say about the ignition. Funny that. So just double check. Electrics go in front of that one, behind that one. Electrics this side come in front of it. Throttle comes in front of it. Clutch comes in front of it. So take the nut off first. You nutter. Right, so that's the ignition barrel on, so we should be ready to chuck that on there. Oh, I wonder if that's a packer for underneath. I wonder if that is for there. Must be more. Right, yes, that washer there is a spacer for there, and then you can put the yoke on. Down to there, and then we want rushing this in on. Right, as per normal, trying to rush ahead. So I've taken all the handlebars and everything off. It was all, I put it all together the other day to mock it up and see what it would look like on the bike. And then for some weird reason I thought I could manhandle it all. And just as I'm fitting it, I realised I've put no nut locker on these. I didn't really tighten them up properly. So I suppose better to find out here than somewhere down the road. See what I mean? That's that was like hand tight. Right, tighten that up before I can put the handlebars on. Right, so that's that on. Oh dear. Being beckoned by the missus. Continue this another time. Right, so missus is calling me in for dinner. So I've got to go because I rule the roost and I need to run in and tell her that I rule the roost and have my dinner and then ask her if I can come back out and play. That's definitely enough shed time today. Time to get a beer.